Next, on Currents News, another possible hate crime against the Diocese of Brooklyn.
Police in Elmhurst are searching for the person who toppled this sacred statue, leaving it in pieces, in the latest act of vandalism at Catholic churches and schools across New York City. I'm Jessica EASTHOPE, and that's ahead.
Plus, Catholic leaders in Canada expressing sorrow after children's remains are found near a formerly church-run school for Native kids. A cyber attack on one of the largest meat producers in the country could result in rising prices at the supermarket. And a young boy flees Nigeria and finds a new passion in the U.S.
Every single day I always play chess. If I don't play chess on that day, that's not a normal day.
He was just named a chess master at 10 years old and credits God for his success.
These three pieces were really upsetting me because we had the statue for so many years.
The NYPD is investigating yet another possible hate crime at a church in the Diocese of Brooklyn. Good evening, I'm Christine Persichetti. The Virgin Mary statue at St. ADALBERT'S in Elmhurst was broken into pieces. Now, a local councilman is offering a reward to find who did it. Jessica EASTHOPE spoke with him and the church's pastor about the latest attack on the diocese.
There are no cameras on the buildings facing this quiet courtyard at St. ADALBERT'S. Police now searching for the person who left this statue in ruins.
Said it's an attack on religion.
As attacks on faith across the city become increasingly common, for Queens Councilman Robert Holden, this is personal.
It's an attack on my past, my foundation, the place where I got all my values. Look at that.
Before Councilman Holden was married at St. ADALBERT'S in 1973, he was a student and an altar boy. Now he's offering up money in the hope of catching the person who did this.
We have to find who did this and stop them because they may be doing it in other places.
Sometime between the evening of May 27th and the morning of the 28th, someone came through the gate in the back of St. ADALBERT'S and threw the statue to the ground. The Blessed Mother broken into pieces. Father PODYMNIAK, the pastor of the church, says the statue likely predates the church building itself, going back nearly 130 years.
All these three pieces were really upsetting me because we had the statue for so many years.
The statue admired by so many parishioners, but in the wake of the vandalism, members of the church community are turning the other cheek.
I ask God he or she may be enlightened, have his faith strong. May God bless him, even though he did this.
Father MIROSLAW said what surprised him most wasn't the act of vandalism, but an act of kindness and faith that came after it.
One of the police officers, he came to me and he said, "Father, I will take care of this." He's going to bring some professional to have a look and have this fixed for us free of charge.
Father MIROSLAW said that officer is expected to bring the contractor by in the next few days. As of now, no arrests have been made, but the incident is under investigation by the NYPD's Hate Crimes Task Force. In Elmhurst, Jessica EASTHOPE, Currents News.
This vandalism comes after a string of attacks on Catholic buildings in the Diocese of Brooklyn. A statue depicting the Virgin Mary and her son Jesus was defaced last month in front of the offices of the diocese. The head of the baby Jesus was knocked off completely. The diocese is working to restore the statue and called on the NYPD to step up patrols at Catholic buildings in Brooklyn and Queens. If you have any information on who may have damaged the statue, call Crime Stoppers at 800-577-TIPS. That's 800-577-8477. Police have been posted outside St. Athanasius Church in Bensonhurst after a crucifix outside the church was toppled. They arrested Ali Alahiri for the crime and say he also lit the American flag on fire. He's also accused of setting a fire at a synagogue and punching a Hasidic man. The crucifix was put up more than 10 years ago in memory of Monsignor David Casado's mother. If you'd like to help rebuild it, head on over to GoFundMe.com and search Help Restore St. Athanasius Church. Also tonight, violent crime on the streets of the Big Apple, a spike in shootings during the pandemic that might outlast the virus, and unprovoked attacks above and underground on innocent New Yorkers. Many asking, are we back to the 1980s? Currents News with the latest statistics you need to know. We've been reporting on a disturbing trend of hate crimes and subway attacks in the city. The latest, the NYPD now has a suspect in an attack on an Asian American woman in Manhattan. According to police, this man is suspected of attacking a 23-year-old woman at the 116th Street subway station in Morningside Heights in early May. The victim was walking across the platform when the suspect started beating her with his cane. And on Monday, a 51-year-old man was hospitalized after being stabbed at a Harlem subway station with his own knife. Police released this video showing two men taking swipes at each other at the 125th Street station. After slamming the victim against the wall, the suspect picks up a knife and stabs the man. He is expected to survive. No arrests have been made. Police have arrested a man they say shoved a 63-year-old woman onto the tracks at a Brooklyn subway station Tuesday afternoon. We're told she was waiting on a platform at the Broadway Junction station when a stranger suddenly pushed her. No train was coming, but the woman got a large cut on her leg. These are just a few of the latest incidents of subway crime in the city. According to the NYPD, 154 transit-related crimes have been reported throughout the month of May. That's nearly twice the number of incidents reported this time last year. And later in this newscast, we'll speak with mayoral candidate Fernando Mateo about the rise in crime. We'll find out how he plans to make the Big Apple safer on the streets and underground if elected. Yet another cyber attack on a major U.S. company. This time, hackers shut down 9 U.S. beef processing plants, and it could mean you'll have a harder time finding the meat at your supermarket. Isabel Rosales is in Washington with a cybersecurity expert who says this should be a wake-up call for companies.
Microsoft and the Pentagon, among others, left vulnerable to hackers in a breach. Panic at the pump after the shutdown of Colonial Pipeline. Now, beef could be harder to find and more expensive at your grocer.
We're going to see more of this before we see less of it.
A string of cyber attacks is to blame.
They've just gotten bigger and bolder.
Cybersecurity expert Jason CRABTREE says hackers are using the same playbook, but Americans are paying more attention.
It's an incredibly personal and disruptive thing to say, well, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get gas to go to work. I don't know if I'm going to be able to bring back some of the food that I need for my family.
The latest ransomware attack forced meat producer JBS to close processing plants in these states.
A lot of organizations are realizing that they didn't think that they were a target or that they had a really good report card, but they might have looked like a real dumpster fire from the internet and they get targeted.
President Joe Biden signed an executive order last month to strengthen cybersecurity and to share information between government agencies.
Sunlight is going to be the best disinfectant.
But the order is mostly focused on the federal government. CRABTREE says companies need to better monitor their data, protect it, and be more transparent when attacks do happen.
This is solvable, but a lot of organizations have made a choice not to bring in the experts or the technology or the process maturity that they need to do so.
In Washington, Isabel Rosales, Currents News.
In Canada, bishops are promising to work with Indigenous peoples toward healing and reconciliation. This following the discovery of the remains of hundreds of Indigenous children in unmarked graves near a former Catholic residential school. 215 pairs of shoes laid on these Vancouver steps, their souls symbolically now at rest. Catholic leaders are responding after the remains of 215 children were found buried for decades on the grounds of the Kamloops Indian Residential School in Canada. The former school was run by the Catholic Church and later by the federal government. Archbishop J. Michael Miller of Vancouver called the news troubling, saying in a statement, "The pain that such news causes reminds us of our ongoing need to bring light to every tragic situation that occurred in residential schools run by the Church. The passage of time does not erase the suffering that touches the Indigenous communities affected, and we pledge to do whatever we can to heal that suffering." The Indigenous community in British Columbia calls it an unthinkable discovery.
It was devastating. It was actually quite mind-boggling.
Former student Harvey McLeod says he was subjected to abuse at the school.
What I realized yesterday was how strong I was as a little boy. How strong I was as a little boy to be here today. Because I know that a lot of people didn't come home.
According to Canada's Truth and Reconciliation Commission, Indigenous children were forced to attend the school, separated from families, and many neglected and abused. Some disappeared, their families never knowing what became of them.
What they were told was that when children were missing, that they were told they ran away.
Native leaders say it's time the government steps up.
There is obviously more to do.
Prime Minister Justin Trudeau called the discovery a painful reminder of a dark chapter in the country's history, but isn't making any specific promises.
This government is committed to reconciliation. We are committed to the truth.
Flags were lowered to half-staff at the Vancouver Archdiocese offices and schools, and the Archbishop of Winnipeg is pressing for further investigations into what happened to the children. There's a lot more news headed your way. A little boy is abandoned at the southern border by smugglers. Coming up, we'll show you what happens next. Plus, Republican mayoral candidate Fernando Mateo sits down with me to discuss his plans for the city and why he thinks he should be its next leader. And a young chess master defies the odds, escaping Christian persecution with his family by a terror group to live the American dream.
There are now some big changes to the tablet website. You can get personalized access to the Catholic news you value. Sign up for free at thetablet.org.
Like every single day, I always play chess. If I don't play chess on that day, that's not a normal day.
We are happy and we are very grateful to God and the people, the whole world rallied around us.
His family fled their native Nigeria for the U.S. after being threatened by a terror group. The refugees made a home in New York where their 10-year-old son found the American dream on a chessboard. He's a nationally ranked chess master and credits his success to his faith. Currents News' Emily Drewby met with the family to share their incredible story.
In chess, you build on your moves until eventually together they lead to a win.
Checkmate.
Sometimes the moves are easy, sometimes they're not. Much like the moments in TANI ADEWUMI's life, at times seemingly impossible, but they've led him to here. The 10-year-old is a national chess master, the 28th youngest person to hold the title.
Like every single day, I always play chess. If I don't play chess on that day, that's not a normal day.
But while in the 2 years he's been playing, the game has remained the same, where he plays it is very different. The family, refugees from Nigeria. In 2016, Boko Haram wanted Tani's father, Coyote, to help them spread anti-Christian propaganda. The devout Christian refused, so the Islamic terrorist group started threatening the family. Threats they've followed through with many times before. According to the charity Open Doors USA, more Christians are murdered for their faith in Nigeria than any other country.
The persecution, the killing, the kidnapping is going on rapidly.
The family fled for their lives, a difficult but necessary decision.
It's not easy to leave your people behind.
Making their way to the U.S. and eventually to New York City.
When we got to America, we were more safe.
That's where Tani was first exposed to chess at his public school. As his family was living in a homeless shelter, Tani worked very hard, practicing for hours a day.
I had to put my heart into chess.
The tenacity paid off and the world began to notice. He became a national sensation. There's even a book about his life.
Even our family did not know that we were staying there.
With the help of his fans and the game, the family now has a home of their own, a place where they can practice chess and their faith, safe from persecution.
And we are very grateful to God and the people, the whole world rallied around us.
Tani's next goal is to become the youngest grandmaster ever. He's gotten till he's 12 years and 7 months old. It's a tough task, but as Tani has proved, he's not afraid of hard work. In Port Jefferson Station, Long Island, Emily Drewby, Currents News.
So impressive. Turning now to the crisis at the southern border. New video shows the moments a 5-year-old boy is abandoned by smugglers. The boy can be heard screaming for them not to leave him, pleading for them to come back as he clutches a teddy bear. The video shows the man and woman escorting him across the Rio Grande, then dumping him, expecting his parents to pick him up. Later, you see a Border Patrol agent spot the child and pick him up. It's unclear if he was taken to his parents. The U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops is taking part in an emergency meeting on immigration. The meeting comes as parts of Latin America have been hard hit by the pandemic and emerging political unrest. The bishops hope to create a plan for the church's response to the current migrant crisis. Primary day is less than 3 weeks away in the race for New York City mayor. Currents News has asked all of the frontrunners, Democrat and Republican, to join us to tell us why they should be our next mayor. Today, we're speaking with Republican candidate Fernando, Mateo. And Fernando, let's get right to the issues. A big concern for New Yorkers right now is crime in the city. There's been an uptick in anti-Asian hate crimes and incidents on the subway. We mentioned earlier a woman was pushed onto the tracks yesterday. Someone was slashed on Monday. What's your plan to make the Big Apple safer underground and on the streets?
Well, crime is the biggest issue for all of us. It's not just the subways, it's the streets, it's the litter, it's the disrespect to our men and women in blue. My plan for making our city safer is the same plan that Rudy Giuliani had when he came in 1994. When this city was crime-ridden, we need to make sure that we have enough law enforcement officers out on the streets, that our police officers are respected in the streets. We've got to make sure that we get rid of bail reform that has really crippled our city, and Democrats are responsible for that. I pledge to have 2 police officers on every subway platform throughout the city, throughout the 4 boroughs, and I will make sure that every subway station becomes a safe haven for anyone that's in trouble. Right now, you run into the subways, you will get killed. When I am the mayor, if you run into the subways, you will have a safe haven place because there will be police officers there to protect our citizens.
That would be great, but how do you pay for 2 police officers in each subway station?
By making sure that we bring our economy back. We can't bring our economy back if crime is high. No one wants to be in a city that's crime-ridden. Everyone wants public safety first, our economy and small businesses second. I can bring in 50,000 new small businesses quickly to New York City by giving the business owners a 10% tax break on payroll taxes, the same way we were doing it for Amazon. Rather than creating 25,000 jobs, I will create 500,000 jobs, and those tax revenues will allow us to bring in more police officers and make our city safer. It's about bringing and raising and making sure that our tax revenue is there. I will assess property taxes, lower them, and cap them, so that real estate owners and developers can come into New York City and create a better and bigger tax base for New Yorkers.
And going back to the defund the police movement, I know you're against that, but there are still so many people in New York City who want to defund the police. There's tension between community members and police. How will you improve relations between the officers and the residents?
Well, understand, I come from the inner city. I come from the projects. Usually it's legislators that are leftists, that are socialists, that are communists, that want to defund the police. But guess what? They are the first ones to dial 911 when they're in trouble. New York City is the capital of the world. It should be the safest city in the world. And when I am mayor, I promise every New Yorker that our city and our streets will be safe. There will be law and order, and our economy will come back.
One last question. I know you were born in the Dominican Republic, and the Brooklyn Diocese is known as the Diocese of Immigrants. How will you help immigrants in the city, particularly the undocumented?
As an immigrant myself, I will not have a sanctuary city. I don't believe in sanctuary cities. If you commit a crime, you will be deported. It's the only way to keep our citizens safe. It's very important for immigrants to know that they're welcome here, but they need to have a job, they need to pay taxes, they need to show that they have revenues in order to support their lifestyle. We need to make sure we can help them navigate that. But we will not have sanctuary cities for anyone that are committing crime in our city.
All right, Fernando, Mateo, Republican candidate for mayor, will be following your campaign. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
And remember to get out there and make your voice heard. Head to the polls. The primaries for the 2021 New York City mayoral election will be on June 22nd. The general election is on November 2nd. Still to come on Currents News, the special wish from a Brooklyn library as it collects 1,000 origami cranes. Do you have a story idea or want to share a tip? Email us at newstips@desalesmedia.org or call our 24-hour number, 718-517-3122. We'll be right back. A Brooklyn library is honoring coronavirus victims in a very special way, by hand and by an ancient art, origami. 1,000 paper cranes are currently inside a Greenpoint branch, each with a message of love and hope written inside. Currents News' Emily Druby visited the library and has a look at the touching display.
Step by step, this small piece of paper transforms into a symbol of hope, a crane. It's a task Rebecca Cowley has done many times.
In Japanese culture, there's this tradition of if you fold 1,000 paper cranes, you get a wish. And it's often done to symbolize hope and love and peace.
They now have 1,000 cranes proudly displayed in their windows, and they're wishing for healing. An idea hatched by her and the staff at Greenpoint Library, which was recently opened. A COVID-19 remembrance project honoring those who were taken too soon.
And we were just brainstorming ideas to memorialize the past year of collective grief that the culture and the nation has been experiencing.
Over 58,000 American lives lost, 33,000 in New York City alone. In the only 2.7 miles of Greenpoint, Brooklyn, 52 were taken by the disease. Grief, a pain that's known intimately here.
We've had some coworkers who work at this branch who've lost family members.
But now these cranes are flying in change. As FRITZI Bodenheimer of the overarching Brooklyn Public Library explains, they provide hope and a place to reflect.
Even today, as I was approaching, I saw people stopping, taking pictures, taking a minute to take it in. It's commemorative, but also it's so bright and beautiful, it gives you hope.
The idea took flight. Members of the community began making the cranes too.
Sometimes you'll get a story from someone giving you the crane. You know, someone close to me has passed.
It's where about a third of them came from.
Folding in.
The rest were made by the employees here like Rebecca, a labor of love for their new community. A grandmother, a friend, a son, a wife. Collective grief brought together to create something powerful. In Greenpoint, Brooklyn, Emily Druby, Currents News.
What a beautiful memorial. And that is Currents News. I'm Christine Persichetti. Thank you for joining us because we are putting your faith in the news. Hope to see you again next time.